And it's time for Transformation Tuesday with Charles D'Angelo. Now, when the world feels chaotic, the last thing on our minds can be weight loss, but health goes beyond the number on the scale, and sometimes transformation, it begins with a simple mindset shift. So here to share more on how to make that shift and his life-changing program, Charles D'Angelo. Charles, thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure, every other week.
Every other week. It's really the best time for us because we get to hear so much more about your story, and I love when we get to chat one-on-one. Because it's an incredible transformation yourself that you've had.
Yes.
But why don't we just start off with these challenges? There's a lot of challenges in the world today that seem to be getting in people's way.
Well, I think there's always challenges in each of our lives. Every day I have case after case, client after client. I have clients that come in that have been diagnosed with cancer. I have clients that are going through issues at school that are adolescents. I have clients that are going through issues with their family or in their marriages. We can always find things that challenge us to stay steady and stay consistent. And so much of transformation has most to do with mindset. I mean, I was my first client. I was 360 pounds as an adolescent. I found a lot of the things most people take for granted to be very, very difficult. Even talking to people, the idea of being on TV and sharing my story would have been overwhelming. But I found that in all the different efforts I had tried to make, whether it was pills, gyms, trainers, diets, books, there was something missing in all of that. And that missing component was, how do you really change your relationship so you don't use food like a drug? So weight loss isn't really, although obviously most people know me as a person who helps people transform themselves physically, I always tell people that's the dividend of the work. The real work is, how do you disconnect from using food as a distraction or a consolation? How do you develop a better relationship with yourself? And you're looking at footage there of me talking to clients in my office, many in person, but now I have clients all over the country, all over the world that I work with via Zoom. How do you get to a place where the relationship you have with yourself is sufficient enough that you're not using food analgesically? That's a fancy way of saying like a drug. And at 16 years old, my mom was struggling with alcoholism. I was going through a really rough time. I was at CBC High School on Clayton Road. I was sitting in class with a smile plastered on my face, getting great grades, while my mother was in the intensive care unit across the street, and I didn't tell anyone about it. So a lot of us who struggle with our weight carry a lot of shame, a shame about our history. Maybe we've been mistreated, maybe we've went through trauma, maybe we've been sexually abused, physically abused, maybe our parents went through a divorce, and in some way we've allowed that to get into our minds and make us feel as if we're unworthy, undeserving, unlovable. So the real work is creating a new chapter in your life and starting to write a story that in many ways doesn't allow for your biography to be your destiny. I was on a path of allowing my history to write my future. And so many of us are sitting at home right now unconscious. We're just doing things reactively. We're not really being strategic. We're not being intentional. And so sitting down with someone who shows you that it's possible and who helps you get your thoughts, your feelings, and then your behaviors in alignment, all three of the things in alignment, that's a real key to having success like we've seen here in so many lives of clients that I've shared.
So many. I mean, you've had one success story after the other. We're actually going to take a look at some of that video.
That's Dr. Jared Troutman. He was a gentleman out of Texas, in fact, who came to see me when the pandemic started. So we were talking about the chaos. Right now, everyone's, the buzzword obviously is tariffs, you know, and everyone's looking at their 401ks and their retirement. They're saying, oh my God, am I going to be out in the street? The reality is you have to trust that you can handle what's going to come up. So realize that the gifts that you have in your life, whether it be money, whether it be your health, whether it be a relationship, those are all dividends of a process. So there was an old axiom to speak to money that said if all the money in the world was equally distributed amongst everyone today, it would only be a matter of months before the money was back in the pockets of the people that originally had it. And the reason they said it is because it's who you are, it's the skills you have that bring success into your life. It's not, success is an inward process. It's not outward in, it's inward out. So you work on yourself and you create the life you want.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And what I love about your story too is just hearing your own struggles and knowing that people like, hey, I've been through this too.
I've been there,
been there.
And I sometimes have to be very direct, but it's always from a place of compassion and empathy because I know what it feels like to be stuck in a place you're unhappy with. And I also know what it feels like to be out of that place.
Right. Well, Charles can help you too. He's helped thousands of people reach their weight loss goals. Schedule your free consultation today. We'll be right back.